Relationships ain't easy, and unfortunately, there's nothing you can do to change that, but you can enjoy them more. And if you approach them the right way, they can be more than worth it. So I'm John Sanders. I'm a husband, father, brother, sharing the mistakes and successes that I've made in my own relationships so I can help you with yours. If you're single, struggling to get a date, or if you're married and you feel like you're a million miles away from the spouse that's sitting right next to you, I got something that's going to help you. We're going to have fun, you're going to laugh, but most importantly, you're going to learn something that's going to help you take your relationship to the next level. Or if you don't have a relationship, you'll learn something to help you get one. Let's jump into the podcast. Welcome back to the podcast. I hope everybody's doing good. Today's going to kind of be fun. We're going to do something, it's called, Are You Ready for Marriage? Are you ready for marriage? And this is going to be the Love is Blind edition. So one of the shows that me and my wife watched together is Love is Blind. I was watching it, and as someone who loves to encourage people with their relationships and finding healthy relationships and being healthy themselves, I like seeing this approach for Love is Blind. If you haven't watched the show, it's on Netflix. You should. It's actually pretty good. But the whole concept is before the people see each other, they have to decide to get married, but they're in these pods, and there's a wall in between them. And so all you can do is hear their voice. You can't see them. You can't even see like an outline of them or anything. So the whole point is to take physical attraction out of the equation before you decide to marry the person. So anyway, they follow people as they go through this process. I guess it's season 2. It's not really season 2. It's called After the Altar. And we were watching that. I think it was like three episodes, I think. So anyway, I thought I would go through and then just kind of evaluate or assess each person and find out, are they ready for marriage? So some of the people, they're actually already married. So I'm just saying, why are they ready for marriage? Or why were they? So there's a little bit of a spoiler alert. If you haven't watched anything, bookmark this, put it on your to watch later list. Turn on Netflix and at least watch the first season. I guess there's going to be a few spoilers for After the Altar too, so watch that too. But anyway, let's get into it. So first of all, Cameron and Lauren. So I had to first of all say, these are the people I was kind of rooting for and cheering for from the beginning of the episode. I'm going to start with Cameron and start with why he's ready for marriage. So again, before I dive into this and to each person, let me just let everyone understand this is based off of what I can see of them in front of the camera and behind a microphone. So obviously I know there's been edits and we don't get to see the whole picture, but the more a person gets comfortable in front of a camera, the more relaxed they get and the more they show their true selves. So I get some idea of them. But again, this is just what I can see from the show. So, and I don't follow them on social media, so I don't know maybe their day-to-day life. And I'm sure on social media they show more of themselves. But this is what my assessment is after watching this show. So Cameron. My big ups to Cameron and Lauren, by the way, because it's a white man, it's a black woman. That doesn't happen too often. So, and they're in Atlanta, which is in the South. So there's still, some racial tension here and there. It's obviously better than it was 50 years ago, but it's a long way to go. So kudos to them for that. So I want to say Cameron, he's not afraid of being emotional. Then this is a good thing. A lot of men think that you can't show any emotion because that's a weakness. And the funny thing is, it's not really that you can't show emotion. It's just the type of emotion. See, it's okay for a dude to be mad, angry, hateful. That's okay, because that's considered in our culture masculine emotions. But they can't cry or show things that are considered feminine emotions. So anyway, Cameron's not afraid of crying or expressing how much he cares for and loves Lauren. And so that's a good thing. So women, if you're listening, there are men out there that do that. And if a man does that to you, it's a good sign that he really cares. So what else about Cameron? So he's willing to put himself in uncomfortable situations. Like I said before, he married a black woman. When you're marrying someone, you have to think about how your family is going to react. Now, his immediate family seems cool with it, but we all got uncles, cousins, so forth and so on. And there's bound to be someone who has something to say about it negatively. So anyway, he put himself in uncomfortable situations. I remember when he had to talk to Lauren's dad, and he wasn't happy. So putting himself in that position, kudos, my hat's off for him. But again, women, you want a man who's willing to go through, perceived danger or something that's uncomfortable because he cares about you and wants you. Another good thing is he had a good career and a nice house before he met Lauren. I think he's a scientist. I think he said he does something with AI. So I don't know if he's like a programmer or something, but anyway, it's a good job. He was clearly making good money because they had a nice house. So that's good. So he had his things together. It looked like he took care of himself health-wise. So taking care of yourself, eating healthy, exercising, making sure your mental health is good. Those are all signs of a healthy person, someone who loves themselves enough to work on themselves. And he showed a strong desire to please Lauren, his wife, but he also seems to have healthy boundaries. So he's not trying to go, break his back to please her at the cost of himself. But what's the saying? Don't light yourself on fire to warm somebody else. So anyway, he has a good balance. He'll set his boundaries when he needs to, but he also will go out of his way for his wife when he needs to. So those are the reasons why Cameron is ready for marriage. So let's go to Lauren. Lauren, so I like Laura because she says almost whatever is on her mind. But she has like this good heart. So most of the times when she says it, it doesn't come across as like hurtful. So it's this weird balance. So she could say almost whatever she's thinking, but most people take it the right way and don't get offended. So I'm proud of her. And she's a strong black woman. So for me, obviously, I grew up around strong black women. My mom, my aunts, grandmas. So that warms my heart. But anyway, why was Lauren ready for marriage? Well, for one thing, she came across as a good communicator. And I kind of alluded to that when I'm talking about how she can just say whatever she's thinking, but it still comes across right. She seems to communicate her emotions very well. She seems to do a good job of saying, this is what I want in a husband. And they're reasonable. He needs to treat me with respect. Another thing is, I saw this multiple times on the show, but it seemed like she's a good friend. And I saw multiple times where she was helping other people throughout their issues. So for instance, Carlton, he talked with her. And it seems like he was comfortable talking with her out of everyone else in the group or the cast of the show. And so to me, that says something if people feel like they're hurt or they're vulnerable and they can reach out to you. So then she also helped out Diamond on her date, just up and left her. She was there for her to pick her up. So these are all good signs of someone being healthy, because if they can care about and do things like this for their friends, they'll be able to do it for their spouse too. She also comes across as confident. And if anyone tells you differently, men find confidence attractive. So not being cocky, but just being confident in who you are. Is Lauren ready for marriage? Yes, she is. And she and Cameron seem to have a amazing marriage. And it's kind of refreshing. It really is refreshing. They're really seeing into each other. They're really seeing to complement each other. You know, where she's strong, he's weak, and vice versa. So that's my favorite couple, by the way. So now we're going to move on to Jessica and Mark. Man, so many people had so many things to say about Jessica, but I'm not here to accuse her of anything. We're going to find out if she's ready for marriage or not. So Jessica. So my impressions of her from the show, she seems to be very well established in her career. She seems to be very successful in her career. She comes across as someone who's like maybe at an executive level or very near it. So that tells me she's a hard worker. She's probably good with her money. And I believe we got to see her house in some of the earlier episodes. And if it's what I remember, it was a pretty nice house. It was a good house. So she's making some good money. So some of the things that I would say are red flags would be trust. I think trust is extremely important for any relationship, but especially marriage. If you're going to commit to spend the rest of your life with someone, you're going to have to trust them. So let me just give you some examples. The first thing that made me question how trustworthy she was when Mark proposed to her in the pods. She rejected him because she wanted Barnett. That's okay. But after Barnett rejected her, then she came crying and running back to Mark. So to me, that was a red flag. If I was Mark, I'd have been like, look, I'm not second place to anybody. So sorry it didn't work out with you and Mark. Sorry it didn't work out with you and Barnett. Sorry it didn't work out with us. Anyway, but back to Jessica. I feel like she's either oblivious of her actions, or she's just flat out lying to everybody, especially about things she's done in the past. She tried to talk Barnett out of marrying Amber, but somehow she conveniently can't remember that. She is bringing up rumors after the altar about Mark and I feel like it's to like prove that he's a bad guy, because she caught a lot of flack for how she treated him. Some of it was just. So now I felt like she was on this mission to be like, well, he's not as great of a guy as y'all think. It's kind of hard to trust someone like that, who's only out to break other people down. And then this goes to my next point. She hasn't owned up to any of the issues that were her fault. So she has a problem admitting when she's wrong. Like, she still acts like Amber and Barnett are just being unreasonable in how they're treating her. Again, she tried to break up their marriage while they were engaged, simply because she wanted Barnett. Not because there was an issue, not because Amber was cheating on him, nothing. She just wanted Barnett. She hasn't apologized to either one of them. She hasn't admitted that what she did was disrespectful to Amber. I don't know if she doesn't realize it, but it comes across that she doesn't realize she keeps putting Barnett in these situations where she has to but he has to choose between her and his wife. Like, do I just be rude to her, or do I break my trust with my wife to not hurt her feelings? And then she blamed almost every single problem during her engagement with Mark on Mark. And everything was his fault. It wasn't her fault. And then for some reason, she couldn't own up to the fact that she just really wasn't into Mark. So can I trust her? Would I counsel someone else to trust her? So yeah, let's take it from the point Mark comes to me. We're friends, and he says, well, what do you think about Jessica? I would not be able to say that you can trust her. She also seems to have an unhealthy view of rejection. So she seemed hell-bent on trying to get Barnett to still choose her after he clearly chose someone else over her. And so I think when you have a healthy view of yourself and your healthy love for yourself, you realize if someone legitimately gets to know you and then reject you and they don't want to pursue a relationship with you, you let them go because you believe and trust that you can find someone who does want you. All this leads me to the verdict that no, she's not ready. She's not ready for marriage. My advice to her, she needs to learn how to see how her actions affect people. And she needs to be mature enough to apologize, just simply apologize when she messes up. And then if someone clearly chooses not to date you, don't continue to chase them, like hoping to change their mind. So that would be my advice to her. So now Mark, if Jessica came to me, asked me what I think about Mark, here's what I would say. So he seems to be a good guy. Like when you first meet him, he comes across as, polite, slightly happy-go-lucky maybe, but just like generally a good guy. He seems to really care about the person he's dating. And what I mean when I say that is going through the engagement stage, it seemed like he was genuinely trying to do everything he could, to prove to... Yeah, I guess he was trying to prove that he loved her. He really wanted Jessica to know that he loved her and that he could be everything for her. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think he did it too much. And so that kind of brings to some red flags. I feel like he allows women to walk all over him. So Jessica was clearly not into him. And I know, and part of the show is they bring their future spouses to meet their family. And I know his mom knew it. And I think she was just like, he really loves her, so I'm going to give her a chance. But I could tell she knew. But anyway, Jessica was clearly not into him. She was clearly chasing Barnett. And she blamed every issue that they had on him. But he never really stood up for himself. And he kept chasing her and acting as if she was perfect, or actually treating him with love and respect. But she wasn't. Now, I don't know how true this is, but his trust now is a little in question. So at the end of the first season, it really wasn't, based off what we could see. But now, if what LC is saying is true, and also Jessica, he cheated on his girlfriend, who's now pregnant, and I guess LC was one of the girls that he cheated on her with. If that's true, then there is an issue with trust, obviously, if you're running around cheating on people. If it really was a misunderstanding, then at the very least, he needs to be more assertive in defining what his relationships are with women and just letting them know, again, what stage they're in. Like, hey, right now we're friends or we're dating, whatever you want to label it. In my step-by-step process, I would call it dating. But you need to explain to that person what dating means to you, because everybody has a different view of dating. Some people are totally cool with dating multiple people at once. Some people are like, no, if you're dating me, it's just me. Regardless, the man should make it clear. Say, hey, this is how I date. What do you think? And you need to figure out if you guys are on the same wavelength. If not, you probably don't need to pursue that relationship. So, my verdict for Mark, is he ready for marriage? No. He's not ready. I think the main thing he needs to work out is allowing women to walk all over him. And then just have some self-worth and have a standard of how you're going to be treated. And then be willing to walk away from a relationship where a person doesn't treat you to that standard. And then something he needs to work on to become ready is if he's really running out here behind his girlfriend's back and he's lying to women, because they made it seem like it was just multiple women, women on women on women on women. If that's true, this is just what I get from watching him on the show. He didn't come across that way in season 1. If what they're saying is true now, my guess is the show came out. Now when he steps out with his friends, all these girls recognize him. They give him attention and they want him. So that's not an excuse. It's just something he has to overcome. Now it's going to be harder to be trustworthy. It's going to be harder to be faithful if you have multiple girls constantly coming up and wanting you. So if he wants his future wife to feel safe and secure with him, he needs to learn how to handle that and how to tell those girls no. Which is funny. It kind of stems back to letting people walk all over him and just doing kind of what they want. But anyway, so he's not ready, but he can get ready if he just listens to my advice. So here's the last couple that we're going to go over in this part. Carlton and Diamond. So I'm going to start with Carlton. So if Diamond walked up to me, asked me what I thought about Carlton, is he safe to marry? That's what I would say. So he comes across actually, like when you first meet him, as someone who would be fun to be around. And he actually seems like a cool guy. So I think from a first impression standpoint, I think most people would say, yeah, he's cool. But I think Carlton has a lot of red flags. The first one being trust. If you're wanting to be married, it's hard to trust you when you hide something about yourself that you consider to be a huge part of who you are. So he's bisexual, but he didn't tell her that until like they were like on the honeymoon, basically. Because they did a honeymoon before they got married. But it's a show. But anyway, that was deep into the show. He didn't bring that up. For people to trust you, you have to tell them big things about yourself. And that's a big thing. He should have told her. He seems to have a hard time controlling his emotions, especially when the subject of his sexuality comes up. He gets so defensive. And he gets defensive to the point where he starts lashing at people. So he lashed out at Diamond because when he told her, she was like, this is a lot for me to handle, understandably. But he got defensive about it, and they ended up getting in this huge fight, and that's what ended their relationship. Later on, after the altar, Lauren was trying to talk to him, and he kept getting mad because anytime she tried to just bring balance to the conversation and just bring someone else's perspective, he lashed out at her. And then he needs to be honest about his insecurities surrounding his sexuality. So he'll say, I don't care what people think, but that's a lie because if you don't care what people think, then you won't hide it from people because you're afraid they'll reject you. As long as you're afraid someone's going to reject you for something, you're afraid and care what they think. So my verdict for Carlton is no, he's not ready. Here's some advice to help him get ready. He needs to get over these insecurities that are actually hurting people around him. So he wants to be accepted. He wants to be loved, but he's actually pushing people away with how he lashes out at them when he's hurt. I don't say this to be funny. I don't say this to be rude. I don't say this to be disrespectful. Just as someone trying to help. He needs to seek professional help. Like whenever he talks about that, I just feel like he has a lot of pain. There's probably a lot of history behind it. And I think he needs to take his mental health seriously and work through this. I think he can become more of a whole person. As soon as he gets through all this, he kind of levels us out. That helps him to understand when someone's trying to help and maybe just showing a different point of view, as opposed to when someone's really trying to attack him and hurt him. He needs to know the difference. And so before you're ready to get married, please seek that professional help. Get a psychiatrist and get over this. Again, it doesn't mean that something's wrong with you. It just means there's an issue that you need help with. And to be healthy, you should address it. Okay, last but not least, for this episode, I'm going to do a part 2, by the way, is Diamond. So Diamond, she's a beautiful young lady. She comes across as a good friend. So I remember she stood up for LC. Now, I will say I kind of disagree how she did it. And I kind of still think LC was in the wrong for it. But I commend her for standing up for her friend, trying to be there for her. Little things like that makes me seem that she's a good friend. And normally, if you're good to your friends, you're going to be good to your spouse. She seems genuine. I just get this impression that she would be faithful to her man. She seems like she really wants a husband. She wants the kids. She wants everything. And I feel like she wants to be a great wife. She wants to be a great mom. So I feel like her heart and everything's in the right place. But a few red flags. She kind of comes across as wanting the man too bad. And she wants these men so bad that she overlooks red flags. And these red flags seems to come back and hurt her. The episodes in the After the Altar miniseries, she meets this guy and ends up, bringing him to the anniversary party that they have. But I feel like she missed all these red flags. She even later said, like, the guy just didn't message her. Like, she had to remind him to come to the party. To me, those are all red flags, because if someone's really interested in you, especially when you first meet them, they're going to reach out to you. They're going to want to talk to you. And they're going to want to get to know you better. And this dude, if he couldn't even remember that he has a date with someone who's going to be on national, well, not national TV, but be on Netflix, to me, those are red flags that he's really just not interested in you. But she missed it. And I think that's something she needs to work on. I think she missed some cues that most women would have picked up on with Carlton. Maybe she could have asked around, asked some friends or something, but just some cues that maybe he was bisexual. I don't know. And if that's an issue for her, then that could have been something she addressed or maybe asked him or just prepared herself a little better for. I also see some possible self-worth issues. So people who tend to have lower self-esteem, they tend to put up with nonsense. So like the guy not messaging her, but she's still believing that he could be the one. Like, she was so excited. She was like, oh, he's here. No, that's my man. And she was saying all these things that if she was looking at the red flags, I don't think she would be saying. So possible self-worth issues. Another thing is her health. Like, I believe you need to love yourself enough to be the healthiest version of you possible. Like, you need to exercise, eat healthy, and your mental health. Out of all the people returning on the show, because it was 2 years after the original filming, when everybody was in the experiment, they call it. But she came back in the worst shape. And that's not to throw any shade, not to body shame her or anything like that. But it does show habits and what you've been doing the past 2 years. Eating healthy, exercising is just a sign of self-love and taking care of yourself. Taking care of this body. You only get one. So that's something I would say to her. So the verdict, is she ready? She's not, but she's close. I really think she's got a good heart. I think she's genuine. But I think kind of like Mark, she's allowing men to mistreat her. And there's a little bit of self-worth issues I think she's a workout. Her health, her physical health, mental health, and just maybe even learning how to see these red flags. And so my advice would be learn to be patient. I know you want a man now, but you can't rush it, because when you're rushing this, it's causing you to get hurt. And you're also wasting your time with men who don't love you, don't really care about you. And I know there are men out there who are willing to love you and willing to care for you, but you won't ever get to them until you start saying no to the other men who don't care about you. Learn to be okay with being single. That'll kind of help you to learn to be patient. That was the Are You Ready for Marriage? Love is Blind Edition, part 1. I'm going to have a part 2. I think I'm just going to do a 2-part series on this. But again, the whole purpose of this is to learn from other people. Learn what other people are doing right. Learn what other people are doing wrong. I think by going through these 2-part series, we'll all be able to find a little somebody in us. And we might figure out that we have some of the same issues that some of the other people have. Because they're not like unique issues to just them. It's things that it's common to all of us. We all know someone who deals with an issue like this. Again, just remember, the first step to finding the man or woman of your dreams is to be the type of man or woman of their dreams. I'm sure there's some people who agree with me, probably millions of people disagree with everything I said. But if you disagree, if you have a different opinion, put that in the comments. If you have some questions, put it in the comments. We'll start a dialogue. Part 2 is coming out soon. So just make sure you subscribe. And if I said something that you think could help a friend of yours, just send them a link. Anyway, you guys have a good one, and I'll talk to you later.